G'day guys, this is now part 2 of income. We're not going to do the introduction again. I am Tim.
All right.
And we're going to get right back into the income side of things. Enjoy. Now, investment income. So investment income is predominantly dividends from shares. It's not, so if you're a company structure and you're paying yourself a dividend as your wage or a part of your wage, not really counted as investment income. It falls more into that self-employed. Now, if you own a share, and I've got to be a little bit careful because I don't want to go saying any company names here and get myself in a stripe, but if you own a share in, say, a ASX listed company and that company pays you a dividend, we can use that income so long as we can show that you've owned that company for 2 years or more. You've got 2 consistent lots of dividend on your tax return. And then from there, we can average that over the last 2 years. So the dividends that that company's paid you. And most lenders will take around about 50%. Once again, and use that as your income. Once again, there are some policy niches out there with some of the banks, and they will take a little bit more. But a good little guide for this educational side of things is around about that 50%. So if you've got hypothetically $3,000 that's come in from ASX listed company in year 1, and then ASX listed company in year 2 has paid you $4,000, the bank will average that to $3,500, and from a servicing point of view, they'll use $1,750 as that borrowing power as extra income to borrow against. Once again, there is policy niches that will tweak that. Every circumstance is different. Reach out for us to get more of that specific advice tailored to you rather than general information that we're doing in this video.
See, a lot of clients we talk to think, oh, I earn this much, so I can borrow this much, but there's so much more to it. It's what's on your pay slip, what can we actually use on the pay slip, and then how much does the bank use? And then a lot of, if you've seen any of the other videos, they've got that 3% buffer. So people look at, okay, well, the repayments on 5% are this much, but the bank's assessing it at 8% because they're protecting fish-proofing the loan and actually going to afford it in the future. So a lot of people forget that, well, we can definitely afford it. So well, once we put it in the servicing calculator, it doesn't work because of those buffers that have been put in place. And the banks do that to protect the clients and also to protect themselves. Because if you're asking for 5, 6, 700,000, they want to make sure that you can afford to pay it back because they want their money back, but they also don't want to put the family on the street and end up on hard bear and a whole lot of trouble.
Yes.
So it's protect the bank, they want their money back, but they don't want bad publicity, they want people in their house.
Ryan, thanks for leaving.
So there's pretty much 2 forms. Everyone's aware of short-term holiday accommodation with things like stays and Airbnb, so on and so forth. So lenders don't take that as high a rate, even though you're potentially going to earn a lot more. So if you, for example, my house, we kept it rented out, and we have a long-term tenant in there. They've been there for a couple of years now, and they're great. So whatever we get, that's...
Let's call it $500 a week.
So it's $500 a week. You're told that by 52, and then the bank will shade it. Depending on the bank and the policy, they might take 80%, they might take 40 weeks of rent. Depends on the individual policy, but they'd always shade it, again, to protect themselves or any the bills that come in with rental, even though we put those in living expenses. So it's double debit any vacancies that might come up. So because the short-term time accommodation isn't guaranteed that you have a family living in there, so you might have periods of vacancy that were unexpected. They do shade that a lot more.
Yep.
So, and that's, again, protecting the whole fact main that you can afford the loan.
Yeah, so on the short-term stay of things, so the banks will take probably on average from rental income around that sort of 75 to 90% of the income. And then, there's a little bit more policy stuff, but this is just sort of a general rule of thumb, basically. Then from there, they will, either add in or not add in living expenses, depending on what, as in the rates for the rental property, your water, your insurances, property management fees, those sort of expenses. They'll either add it in or not add it in. The shading will be either we're working on the theory that, if we're taking, say, 90% of the income, then we're going to work on that 10% of that's going to be that sort of vacancy rate point of view. And then they'll want you to sort of add in all your cost of owning that property. If we're running on the side of, say, around about that 75%, they don't always take that other expense side in there. There is sometimes where they do add it in, but once again, it's a case by case, different lenders, different rules, et cetera, which is why we both chose to be brokers rather than work for the banker, because we can manipulate to massage that different policy with different lenders to better suit you for a better outcome. Now, when it comes to the short stay accommodation stuff, it's pretty much consistent across the board. Most lenders want to see 2 years of tax returns of that income, and they're going to average it and then shade it to about 60%. And the reason why is they're sort of looking at it as you're running it as a business rather than sort of your business, which is not, it's an investment, but it's a business context. And I've spoken about that in previous videos that, we should be considering our rental property as a business rather than, a bit of fluff, basically. They consider it an actual business, which is why they cut it down to 60%, because there is that option that, you're potentially only going to get 80% occupancy through the year, and then they further shade it another 20%. Right. Other forms of income.
Okay, so government income is selling the income side. Family tax A and B are probably the most common. There are some lenders out there who will accept disability support, carers allowance, carers payment, things like that, but there's, again, parameters around it. So a lot of them, when it comes to family tax A and B, want to see it that it'll be received for at least the next 5 years. So if the children are 11 years or under, they'll usually use all of it. There are some other banks who will go right up to 16. So again, it's about knowing which banks will accept this and that, and again, manipulating it so we can get the most out of what you have coming to the house and borrow the most amount of money so we can achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Fantastic.
And then people who are, say, well, my father's a good example. He worked for the government for a really long time. So when he retired, he had a defined benefit pension. So he has an income coming in every fortnight for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
There's lots of people out there like that. Banks will definitely use that because they know it's coming in. So,
yeah. And if you didn't work for the government and you do have a large chunk of cash in your super fund, and, well, not cash, but if you have a large super fund balance, Bates will, and you're paying yourself like in a pension because you're in that retirement phase, Bates will consider lending you money to buy or renovate or something along those lines. Obviously, they've got to go through and scrutinise it a little bit harder. They will take different percentages and everything like that of that income. They will potentially want to average it over the last 2 years of return. So there are a few little niches, not so much with that defined benefit person that might exist out there, but definitely for that person who has that little bit of a niche within that sort of environment. But there are still options out there for people to consider in that space. And once again, different lenders, different rules. That's why, talking to experienced mortgage brokers like Ryan and myself benefit, because we can look for that different policy niches and everything like that. And we can look for that different information.
correct.
So,
Yeah, if you just run a brief overview of what we need.
yeah,
If others, there's obviously more to it, but yeah.
there's a lot going to it. It's more of an educational side of things. If you have a really niche way that you earn your income and you want to reach out to us and have a more in-depth conversation, please reach out to myself or Ryan and we can have a more in-depth conversation to see if there is a lender that will accept your income. Once again, you've been watching Invest with Tim Allen. I am Tim Allen, your licensed buyer's agent with IPS Buyer's Agent and mortgage broker with Moreton Bay Finance Broker, and this has been Ryan.
Moreton Bay Finance Program.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.